Whatever life holds in store for me, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king.
We gon' celebrate your party with you. Come on now.
But anyway, Toto, we're home. Home. And this is my room. And you're all here. And I'm not going to leave here ever, ever again.
We gon' celebrate and have a good time.
Wow them in the end. You got hit. You can have flaws, problems, but wow them in the end. And you've got a hit.
We want you to regard us as friends.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Welcome, one and all, to the World of Stu. Hello and welcome indeed to the World of Stu. And if that particular introduction, because that was obviously different to the normal introduction that we have to the show, didn't give it away, this is a very special episode of World of Stu because we have turned 50. Now, obviously not 50 years old, it's not like a golden anniversary or anything like that, and we're certainly nowhere near as old as the Queen. God rest you, Madge. God rest you. God bless you, Madge, is what I meant to say. But we have reached our 50th episode. I, of course, am Stu, the mastermind, evil genius and creator of World of Stu. But I couldn't be Dr. Frankenstein without my very own Igor. It's Dave.
Yeah, here am I, Igor indeed, and being a bit of a geek and reading some classic fantasy books, I actually realised that Igor is actually a pretty good description because Igors are pretty ingenious when it comes down to it.
But yeah, they kind of do all the legwork and all the clever work, and I just take all the credit.
Yeah, you just have to be the evil genius that laughs that laughs as your creation comes alive.
It is alive! It's alive! So it is episode 50, Dave.
That is amazing. I can't believe it's 50 episodes. That has gone really quick.
And to celebrate, we will be running a competition on this show, which we will mention later on. Now, we best crack on because we've got loads to get through because we are doing the remainder of our top 50 films that you must see because they're awesome. So far we've counted down from 50 to 21, which means we've got 20 to number 1 to count down. So we're going to break that down into 2 parts, and here we go with the first half.
There's something curious about this broadcast.
In at number 20 on the top 50 films you must see because they're awesome, it's The Shawshank Redemption. One of yours, Dave. Now this sits comfortably for me in the camp of great adaptations of the work of Stephen King. The Shawshank Redemption was directed by Frank Darabont and is based on Stephen King's short story Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman both give, and I know I said this last week about Liam Neeson, but career best performances, would you say?
I'd say pretty much career best performances, yeah. I mean, it's difficult to tell with those guys, but yeah, I'd say just about the best yet.
well, with Tim Robbins, it's a toss-up between Shawshank Redemption and Howard the Duck.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, you know, if you put Howard the Duck in there, that's going to skew everything, isn't it? But, you know, I mean, how, you know, what could it be like for a guy to, you know, start his career with stratospheric heights of Howard the Duck, and then, you know, where do you go from there?
The only way is down. So Tim Robbins plays Andy Dufresne, and Morgan Freeman plays Ellis Boyd Reddin, otherwise known as Red. The story centres around Dufresne, who is in prison for a crime he claims to have not committed, and how whilst behind bars we see him build a relationship with the aforementioned Red. He also rebels against the system while planning his escape. The film lost out on the Oscar in this year to Forrest Gump.
You know, well, I'd say that's pretty controversial. I mean, I know people love Forrest Gump, but really, it's just inexplicable for me how Shawshank could not have beaten Forrest Gump to the Oscar every single time.
Now, everyone can do a, well, I say everyone can do, everyone likes to think they can do a Morgan Freeman, say, an Andy Dufresne impression. Can you?
Andy Dufresne. No, he's not one of mine. How was that? Did that sound okay?
Not really.
Yeah, there you go. I can't do Morgan Freeman.
In at number 19, we have Alien Apocalypse. Now, this is Bruce Campbell's second appearance on this list, and it's one of the many made for Sci-Fi Channel films that he has made during his career. In Alien Apocalypse, Campbell plays Dr. Ivan Hood, who returns to Earth following a space mission, only to find that the planet has been taken over by giant bug-like aliens. It is then up to the aforementioned Ivan Hood to lead the human rebellion against our alien overlords. Yes, the effects are ropey, but this movie features my favourite line of dialogue ever.
Favourite line of dialogue ever? Okay, what's that then?
There's a part where he is confronting someone who has betrayed the human race to the aliens, and he basically shoots the guy with a crossbow, and the guy is like dying, and he goes, you're a doctor, you're supposed to heal people. And Bruce Campbell turns around and goes, I am? I did. Your stupidity was terminal. Now you're cured.
Okay, that's pretty good for a doctor, I have to say. I can imagine Bruce Campbell delivering that line.
Yeah, a lot better than me. In at number 18, we have The Dark Knight. Now, this, of course, is the second part of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and this is the one that most say is the best of the three. In his final ever performance, Heath Ledger plays the Joker, who wants nothing more than to cause mayhem and bring Gotham to its knees. Christian Bale, of course, returns as Batman, and Aaron Eckhart plays Henry Dent / Two-Face. But he doesn't actually ever really play Two-Face in this film, does he? He's just kind of Harvey Dent.
Yeah, he doesn't really. He's just Harvey Dent, and Harvey Dent going crazy, isn't he? Because, let's be honest, Two-Face is supposed to have a proper split personality, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, this way, it's amazing what you can forgive of a movie if they get other stuff right. But for me, this is pretty much my favourite Batman movie so far. I think it kind of balances just the sheer villainy of the Joker, and for me, probably my favourite Joker on screen so far. I know that's probably a bit of a terrible confession to someone used to, but
well, it is, because I'm a Jack Nicholson and Mark Hamill fan.
Oh, talking of which, maybe we'll mention that later, but can you believe the animated version of the new Batman film, whose title just escapes me?
The Killing Joke.
Yeah, The Killing Joke classic is going to be in R18+.
Yeah, which is going to be awesome. In at number 17, we have John Carpenter's Halloween. Now, in 1978, little-known director John Carpenter created a horror movie that would go on to become a bona fide classic. That movie was Halloween. A young boy by the name of Michael Myers murders his teenage sister and is sent to Smith's Grove, which is a hospital for the mentally insane. He bides his time and years later escapes, returning home to Haddonfield with his doctor Samuel Loomis in hot pursuit. Once he gets to Haddonfield, he dons the now famous mask, which was what, Dave?
Which was it's not a hockey mask, is it? It's a... What kind of mask is it?
It's a William Shatner mask.
Yes, William Shatner mask, because it's William Shatner's face, isn't it?
Yes.
Because that was just an urban legend for a long time, wasn't it?
But it was indeed true. He then goes on a killing spree of the local teen population. Donald Pleasance is Dr. Loomis, and Jamie Lee Curtis stars as Laurie Strode, who we will find out in Halloween 2 is actually Michael's sister.
You know what, I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies, okay? But I think there's something to be said for Michael Myers and his just slow, constant pursuit of his victims. And the music is just... When was the last time you saw a horror music with a soundtrack just this classic? It's just, you know, you hear that music and you know it's Halloween.
In at number 16, another one of Dave's, it is Jaws. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water is one of the most famous taglines in the history of Hollywood. Spielberg's monster movie not only scared the bejesus out of audiences upon its release, but it has influenced scores of movie makers ever since. The 1975 film is based on Peter Benchley's 1974 novel and is considered the first summer blockbuster. Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw star in a movie that tells the tale of a giant great white shark which is terrorising the small town of Amity. It is then down to a marine biologist and shark hunter to kill the animal before it can kill anyone else.
You know what, this is, you know, I don't think I need to say too much about this film. You know, this is the reason why I'm still, you know, dubious and scared to swim into the sea, despite being, you know, a 38-year-old guy. This is before Steven Spielberg kind of just started making talky, boring films. This is what Steven Spielberg should be doing, let's be honest.
In at number 15, it is the most modern film on our top 50 films you must see because they're awesome, and this isn't a testament to how much I like this film and how good it is. It's Deadpool. It is the little movie that can. Costing just $50 million to make, Deadpool has become the highest grossing X-Men movie of all time, taking over $700 million at the box office. Ryan Reynolds revels in finally being able to do the Merc with a mouth justice after the abomination that was Wade Wilson in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yes, this film is vulgar and gory, but it doesn't try to be anything that it's not, and it's such a shot in the arm of a genre that is becoming repetitive that fans are eagerly awaiting Deadpool 2.
You know what, do you think that this year, I was saying to someone this year that earlier on today, this is clearly probably the best year ever for comic book movies. And do you think it's possible that after this year, if it wasn't for Deadpool, fans would just get a bit disillusioned?
Well, so far we've had two superhero movies. One was great and the other was shite.
Yeah, very true. And apparently, if early reviews are any good, Civil War is going to be excellent. But I'm just thinking, even with Civil War, later on this year we've got X-Men and we've got Doctor Strange. I think Deadpool could be the movie which keeps people hopeful, I reckon.
In at number 14 we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's Steven Spielberg again, and once more he has crafted a film that has become a beloved classic. Raiders is the first of what was a great trilogy, which would then become a quadrilogy with the god-awful Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it's likely to be ruined further with Indiana 5. Harrison Ford, who was hot to trot off of playing Han Solo in the first two Star Wars films, is Indiana Jones, an archaeologist who is hired by the government to find the Ark of the Covenant before the evil Nazis can get their hands on it. So why did you pick Lost Ark instead of Temple or Last Crusade?
You know, for me, Temple is good and Last Crusade is brilliant as well, but Raiders of the Lost Ark is really where it began, and it's got everything. It's got you know, the Ark of the Covenant, the MacGuffin, which everyone wants. It's got the girl and the love interest. It's got the evil Nazis searching for it, and even an evil Gestapo guy. It's got that classic beginning, and an amazing chase sequence towards the end. It's just the perfect action movie, and basically not a single shred of CGI within it. If people could make movies like this today, people would be flocking to the cinema to see them. And this, for me, is a 10 out of 10 movie. You know, it's perfect. It's they just don't make them like that, and I just wish they'd stop making Indiana Jones movies now. Let's be honest.
In at number 13 we have Batman. Now, before 1989's Tim Burton movie, the character of Batman was most famously portrayed by Adam West in the campy 1960s TV series and film, which, for the record, is awesome.
It is awesome. I would just geek out so much if at some point in Ben Affleck's new Batman movie, there was some kind of reference to Adam West, whether it's a bat ladder, whether it's a spice rack filled with anti-shark spray, anti-stingray spray.
No, do you know what they should do?
What's that?
What they should have is Batman's closet of costumes in the Batcave, and one of them is this 1960s Batman suit.
That would just be so awesome. Or a red telephone in his office. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Then along came the Gothic king of Hollywood, who crafted a vision of Gotham and Batman that many consider the best to this day, myself included. The film wasn't without its controversy, however, as the world threatened to boycott it over the casting of Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. Little did we know just how well he would smash it and make the role his own. The Joker again steals the show in this film in the form of crazy old Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, do you know what? I sense a pattern here. I believe the Joker should always steal the show. Because that's what he's trying to do at the end of the day, isn't it? He wants to steal the show from Batman. He wants to be the centre of attention. And for me, yeah, Jack Nicholson was a perfect choice back in the early 90s. And it's so difficult for me to say whether I prefer Batman or The Dark Knight, but Batman is awesome as well. I mean, who would have ever thought Michael Keaton as Batman? But he is just, for me, still one of the best Bruce Waynes ever.
In at number 12, we have Lord of the Rings. Now, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings was written between 1937 and 1949, and is the best-selling novel of all time. It comprises of 3 parts, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers and Return of the King, and was a sequel to his other novel, The Hobbit. In 2001, director Peter Jackson released the first of 3 films, which would be followed by a sequel in 2002 and a finale in 2003. The production is one of the biggest ever undertaken, as all 3 films were filmed back-to-back over the course of 8 years. The story, of course, follows Frodo Baggins and his fellowship as they attempt to destroy the One Ring and stop the rise of the Dark Lord Sauron. Across the 3 films, 17 out of 30 Academy Awards were won, with The Return of the King winning all 11 that it was nominated for. So which of the 3 films are you actually putting forward?
Well, how can you put one above the other? I mean, for me, Return of the King is just about my favourite, but you wouldn't be able to have Return of the King if it hadn't built up so well in the first 2 movies. And just the sheer ambition of these movies. I mean, look at everything that you wouldn't have today if it wasn't for these films. You wouldn't have what Hollywood loves so much in filming sequels back to back, which has been done time and time again with Matrix, even Fast and Furious are at it these days. Marvel Studios have just got their pretty much factory production line of their action movies, and you know, it's a shame Peter Jackson hasn't done anything too good. Hasn't really done anything for so long. But yeah, look at all 3 of these movies, fantasy epics. Would we have Game of Thrones today without Lord of the Rings? Probably not.
Don't you think he kind of pissed on his chips a bit with The Hobbit?
Yeah, he did. I mean, The Hobbit, I think, was clearly... It feels to me like it was the studios saying, okay, look, we made 3 Lord of the Rings movies, now we want to make as much money as possible, and we want to make not 2 Hobbit movies, 3 Hobbit movies, even though it should only be 1. Because the book of The Hobbit is just too small to justify turning it into 3 films. And especially as they've added so many bits to it. It just reeks of studio interference, even though it looks good, it feels good, it's got great acting, some great fantasy scenes, just like Lord of the Rings has. It's just not Lord of the Rings.
And finally, for the first half of this week's countdown, we have number 11, which is X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, anyone who's ever spoken to me or listened to this show knows that this is my favourite superhero movie of all time. Days of Future Past, in my opinion, is brilliant from start to finish. In the future, Sentinels have wiped out virtually all of mutant kind. This leads to Wolverine travelling back in time, well, Wolverine's mind anyway, if you don't understand, watch the film, to change history and save the future. This is the first movie to feature both old and young versions of key characters, and is probably the most star-studded cast of actors ever assembled in a superhero film. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, absolutely. I mean, the fact that you've got Hugh Jackman being loyal to his character, you've got Halle Berry returning for her character in Storm. You got Ian McKellen carrying to play Magneto along with Michael Fassbender. Patrick Stewart playing Professor X. It's the cut. Even rising stars like Jennifer Lawrence, who Fox were clever enough to sign up for how many movies? 4 X-Men movies.
Well, that's up in the air now, isn't it? Because she's on about she wants to be in more.
It is, but good on them for signing her while she was young, and she's turned out to be a very decent actress indeed.
So that was the first half of our countdown, 20 to number 11. We will have the final top 10 of the top 50 movies that you should see because they're awesome later on in the show. All of that nonsense brings us to this week's news. Now, before we crack into the actual news itself, we've got a couple of RIPs, Dave.
Oh dear.
Yep. Both in the world of professional wrestling. First up, we have rest in peace to Black Jack Mulligan, who has passed away at the age of 73. Now, Mulligan is the father of Barry and Kendall Windham, which makes him the father-in-law to Mike Rotunda, who was IRS. And that in turn makes him the maternal grandfather to both Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. Mulligan worked for many promotions over a 20-year period.
I don't think I remember it. I don't think I ever saw him wrestle, obviously, but his kids for Wyndham's definitely saw them. They were pretty impressive.
And it's also rest in peace to Balls Mahoney, whose real name, of course, is Jonathan Riker, who has died at the age of just 44. Another one gone far too early. He's most famous for his tenure, of course, in ECW as tag team partner of Ian Rotten, and together they were known as the Chair Swinging Freaks. Unfortunately, Ian Rotten also passed away earlier this year, so both of the Chair Swinging Freaks are now swinging their chairs wherever you happen to believe dead people go when they die.
Well, anyone who wrestled in ECW, let's be honest, gets respect.
Respect and probably a complete lack of health insurance.
I would have thought so, yeah. I mean, I don't know how any of these people have managed to get health insurance in America, but good on them for entertaining the world in their own unique way.
So, that brings us to this week's news.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek universe, it's the World of Stu news.
First up, Dave, I don't know if you've seen this. It's not really a news story, I just wanted to mention it. The Godzilla Resurgence trailer.
Absolutely, I saw this. I went on YouTube and I watched this trailer, and even though there wasn't any dialogue in it or anything, I was really impressed. I think this looks awesome.
It does look amazing because what they've done, and I think it's really clever, is that they've taken old school Japanese rubber suit Godzilla and they've mixed it with modern day destruction in movies, and the two just meld together perfectly.
They do. I mean, I know it. Visually, it doesn't look like the greatest Hollywood special effects you're ever going to see, does it? But it looks good. It looks cool. It looks realistic. So, for me, it almost felt like recently when you watch a Star Wars movie and you watch films that have decided to use actual physical effects, physical props instead of just special effects or computer-generated effects, because your eye can just tell there's something there. So it doesn't, it's kind of weird. How can I describe it? Do you see what I mean?
I do, yeah. But we both agree that the trailer looks very good, and I'm looking forward to the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one I'm going to hunt down when it comes out, definitely.
Now, you made reference to Star Wars there. Now, did you see the story about Frank Oz being in the UK?
I did not. Yes,
yeah.
That's intriguing.
Frank Oz has recently been in the UK visiting Pinewood Studios, where, of course, Star Wars Episode 8 is currently filming. This has led fans to speculation that they may be about to see the return of the Green One.
that would be pretty cool. I mean, even if it's just in voice or in spirit form, it would be nice to have a little appearance by Yoda.
We also, in the first half of our countdown this week, we mentioned Indiana Jones, and you picked one of those films. Have you seen that the plot for Indiana Jones 5 will continue on from the events of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Oh, bloody hell, no.
Which means, I would imagine, it may have crazy old Shia LaBeouf in there somewhere.
Oh, you know what? It just really frustrates when movie makers don't listen to fans and just kind of ignore critics. Have they even watched the film they made?
Probably not.
It's just depressing.
Now, you mentioned this last week in your Week of Geek, the BFG trailer.
I did.
Now, with the recent release of that first full trailer, current president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, has been talking about the 20-year development that the film has undergone, and in particular an early 90s production that almost came together, in which Robin Williams was on board to voice the giant.
Actually, so all of a sudden I'm thinking Robin Williams as the BFG. I don't know. Would he have just done the same as he did with a lot of his roles and done a lot of improv and made it really funny? Because that's not what the BFG is to me.
Pokemon. Are you into your Pokemon at all?
You know what? I'm not heavily into Pokemon. I think I can see why people love them. They're quite cool, but it doesn't really do anything for me.
Pikachu! Anyway, the Pokemon company which controls the franchise is looking to bring their characters to the big screen in a live-action film. The rights to the movie are being offered in a top-secret auction between Warner Brothers, Sony, and Legendary Entertainment. Legendary are apparently able to compete after being bought for $3.5 billion by Chinese corporation Dalian Wanda. Would you have any interest in seeing a live-action Pokemon film? You can say no.
If it was made the right way, I can see how this could be a really big, successful, amazing movie. But it hasn't been done yet. And, I don't think someone like Michael Bay could do it. Even though that, if he made it, it would be a big successful action movie. Pikachu would probably look like some kind of angry yellow grizzly bear. I don't know. But I think if you get the right person making this, it could be a great movie, sure.
Speaking of right people making films and effects, as you did there, James Cameron, have you seen what he's been talking about this week?
Is he still talking about making 3 Avatar sequels?
Oh, no, Dave. No. James Cameron has announced that there will be a 5th Avatar movie released in 2023. He claimed to have spent the last couple of years with 4 top screenwriters to design the world going forward. So there's not going to be 3 sequels, Dave. There's going to be 4.
Well, you know what? It's all very well him saying this. Every couple of months he seems to come out and go, yeah, there's going to be a 3rd Avatar film. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a 5th. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a trilogy of trilogies and a 10th one and a TV series and a sticker album. It's like, you haven't made the 2nd one yet. Get on with it.
An Avatar sticker album. I like that idea.
Yeah, Jesus, by the time he's... look, he keeps on talking and saying this stuff, but is anyone give... I love the first one, but is anyone going to care in 2023? Seriously?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Did you see this story about AMC theatres in America?
I didn't. What have they been up to now?
They have announced that they are looking into allowing people to use their mobile phones in cinemas as a way to encourage younger audiences.
No, sod that, man.
Well, funnily enough, they were inundated with negative stories and tweets, and they promptly dropped the idea.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to go to the cinema and, have people using their phones in front of me, around me, anywhere, because all they're going to do is they're going to think, yeah, it's all right to make a phone call. I'm just going to pop into the aisle and make a phone call. No, it's not okay. Lights go off, people go quiet. That should be the way it is.
Now, we made reference to looking on the internet at certain things at the beginning of this movie news. Now, have you seen the Pete's Dragon picture that's been released?
I have. Kind of looks interesting, doesn't it?
No, Dave, it looks terrible.
Oh, okay.
That dragon does not look like a dragon. It looks like a giant cat.
That's what I thought, though. That's why I thought it looked interesting. It looks like a different kind of dragon. We've had a lot of dragons on cinema throughout the whole of history, and if anything, I was a bit underwhelmed by Smaug in The Hobbit, so I'm just interested to see what they can do.
But when I say Pete's dragon to you, don't you envisage the cartoon dragon with the big chin from the original film?
Well, something like that, you know. I certainly envision a cute, nice dragon.
I don't envisage a 20-foot tall green cat.
Yeah, fair enough. It does look a bit more like a cat than a dragon, but you know, I'm happy to see where it goes.
Pink Floyd should do a new version of their song "The Wall," and it should be, "Hey, filmmakers, leave those films alone."
Yeah, they could do that. We could certainly do it with Ghostbusters.
Let's not even go there. And finally, in this week's movie news, Alex Winter has stated that Bill and Ted 3 is still definitely in the works and may be released straight to video on demand.
Bill and Ted 3?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and Keanu Reeves is on board too.
Oh, he doesn't need money that much, surely.
Well, he's got the whole John Wick thing going on as well, so...
John Wick was awesome, though. Have you watched that yet?
No.
It's great. You seriously have to watch it.
Although I did watch The Fifth Wave this week, and that was god-awful.
It was that bad, was it?
It was, yeah. I keep getting suckered into watching these films under the premise that they might be good, and then discovering later on that they're based on young adult material.
Yeah, I actually watched one of those this week, actually. My kids have been watching the Maze Runner films. And I watched the first one, and I came away just thinking, you know what, it was okay, but it was really generic, kind of like, you know, okay, a little bit Mockingjay, a little bit, just not my kind of thing.
Which is why I say that I get confused as to which is which, because they all kind of just meld into one giant mess.
They do, and this one does nothing for it. It's like, okay, a young teenage cast, and they all have to get out of the maze, and blah, blah, blah.
And that was this week's movie news.
From the furthest reaches of the Geek universe, it's the World of Stu news.
So we have had the vanilla version of the movie news, Dave, which means it is time to go into the more geek-related superhero news. First up, we have the American remake of Death Note. Have you ever watched the original Death Note films?
I have not, but I've heard they're pretty weird.
They are pretty awesome, to be fair, Dave, and you should hang your head in shame that you haven't seen them.
I will. I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those things I'd love to get around and watching them. I picked up the manga books in shops every now and again.
Well, anyway, the remake that they're doing in American style has moved from Warner Brothers to Netflix, with shooting to begin in July. It will be directed by Adam Wingard and written, unfortunately, by Jeremy Slater. Now, do you remember what Jeremy Slater wrote?
No, I don't. What did he write?
Fantastic Four.
Ooh, I'm surprised he's even getting hired.
But the fact that it's moved to Netflix does fill me with some hope.
Yeah, Netflix has had some pretty good productions recently, let's be honest.
So now we move to the world of Marvel. Now Marvel have apparently decided to adapt the Homecoming story for the first standalone Spider-Man film. Have you seen this news?
Yes, I have, and I think it's pretty good news.
Homecoming was the title of Amazing Spider-Man number 252, in which Peter Parker returns to New York to fight crime. Now in the comic book, Parker is wearing his alien symbiote suit, though this is probably unlikely to appear in the film. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they've. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something similar, but and tied it in with the rest of the Marvel Universe, but I would be very surprised if you see an alien symbiote or Venom in this movie.
Sony have registered the URL Spider-Man Homecoming the Movie.com. When I first wrote this story down, it hadn't been confirmed, but it has now been confirmed that is the title and the premise of the first Marvel/Sony standalone Spider-Man film.
And let's be honest, it being kind of also under Marvel Sony, they've obviously got it on a schedule, and it's going to get made pretty quick.
Now, speaking of Marvel Comics, as opposed to Marvel Films, Marvel Comics have announced that part of the Civil War II storyline will be a miniseries featuring the Kingpin Wilson Fisk, who will become a war profiteer. It's going to be written by Matthew Rosenberg and drawn by Richard Lopez Orbiz. Are you a fan of the Kingpin?
You know what? He's an alright bad guy. I love what Netflix did with him in their TV series of Daredevil. But this isn't really doing anything for me. When it comes to a big event like Civil War II, it's difficult enough to buy all the little tie-in stuff, let alone something about Kingpin. So I'll be giving this a miss.
Going back to the previous story just briefly, something just occurred to me while we were talking then. The big news, or probably the biggest superhero news of the week, is that Michael Keaton is signing on to be the main villain in that Spider-Man film.
So who do you reckon he's going to be?
Well, I'm hoping it's going to be somebody that we haven't already seen. So rule out the Lizard, rule out Green Goblin, probably somebody like Mysterio.
Mysterio, yeah, that could be good. Mysterio could certainly be interesting. Like you say, part of me wants to just say, you know what, just leave out all the Green Goblins. But I'd also quite like it if they had him as Norman Osborn, but more of a kind of business type Norman Osborn. And that way he could kind of move into the Marvel movies as well. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but don't you think if they had Norman Osborn in a Spider-Man film without the Green Goblin, fans would just go, "What is this rubbish? Where's the Green Goblin?"
Well, I don't think they would, as long as it was clearly building towards something. I think that a lot of the comic book fans would just say, you know what, this could get interesting. If he's Norman Osborn and he's in a position to oust Tony Stark from being, say, the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that, that could be cool.
Moving away from the world of Marvel to the world of DC/Warner Brothers, Will Smith has stated that he would like to see an adaptation of the comic book story in which Deadshot replaces Bruce Wayne as Batman.
I'm sure he would like to see that, because that would mean he could be in a Batman movie.
You wouldn't be a fan of that then?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they could make it a perfectly decent movie if Ben Affleck had to stop being Batman for some reason. But it looks like from what they're trying to do already, it looks like that would be in another 5 years' time anyway.
And so, speaking of Batfleck, as you did there, it has of course been confirmed that he will star and direct in the next Batman solo movie.
But have they scheduled a date for that yet?
No.
See, that's what I'm thinking, because haven't they got their next 5-6 years worth of movies all lined up already?
Well, after the abomination that was Batfleck versus Supergirl, maybe they should just stop.
Yeah, but you know they're not going to, don't you?
Because that film has still not broken $900 million.
See, that is what I'm thinking. Okay, it did tremendously well in the first week. Everyone wanted to see it, but because it's just not that great, because all reviews aren't that great, it just hasn't been able to push above $1 billion, has it? And if that happens, if the first Justice League movie is of the same quality, surely it's going to struggle to even make its budget back.
It's doomed, Dave. Doomed!
It is doomed. You know, Doomsday didn't do any good.
And not Doctor Doomed, just doomed.
Yeah, well, yeah, enough said about Doctor Doom.
Yeah. And finally, in this week's superhero news, we have the confirmation from Fox that there will definitely be a Deadpool 2.
Oh, well, we already knew that, let's be honest.
Yeah, and it will feature Cable.
Liam Neeson, please, Liam Neeson's Cable.
Really? No, I'm not buying that.
Well, I just want to see Liam Neeson just completely playing it straight. When Deadpool's being, his completely idiotic self, I just want to see Liam Neeson playing a totally straight Deadpool. Totally straight Cable.
Well, we shall wait and see. Watch this space, but I very much doubt Liam Neeson's getting that role.
I doubt it as well, but you never know.
So that was this week's superhero news. Now, before we count down the second half of this week's top 20, which is effectively the top 10, we have a competition in which we are giving away not one, but 2 copies of the book Loner the Collector's Edition, which was written by the outstanding author, me.
Me? The outstanding author, Stuart Grant.
Yeah, that's the one. I should just backtrack there and say I'm not an outstanding author, but it was just something I wrote. It is available on amazon.co.uk, but you can get hold of a copy by listening to this show. I will be, of course, posting the question on Facebook, along with the link to this show once it goes out. And it is simple. All you have to do is tell us which film is voted number 1 in our top 50 movies of all time that you must see because they're awesome.
Okay, and for which you just need to keep on listening, obviously.
Exactly, because now we are going to count down numbers 10 to 1.
There's something curious about this broadcast.
In at number 10, and I said this last week, I think, but this probably says something about us because this is the 9th comic book movie to feature in the top 50. It is The Avengers. Now, Avengers, is it Avengers or Avengers Assemble?
I think the official title is Avengers Assemble, but surely Avengers just sounds better.
Well, anyway, regardless of the title, this is what Batfleck vs Supergirl wishes it could have been.
Absolutely, this is still the best team-up movie of any in the superhero genre ever.
That's debatable, but it brings together a team of heroes and stories that have been massively interwoven across multiple solo movies such as Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, etc., etc. Avengers Assemble was the team-up movie we had all been waiting for. It had Loki teaming up with the Chitauri. Do you know what? Whenever I say Chitauri, I always just think of the rock band.
What band?
Enter Shikari.
I've never heard of them.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, see, you're not as much in touch with the kids as you thought you were. To try and bring about the end of the world. It is up to the Avengers, of course, to put their differences aside and come together to save us all. Now, not only was this the culmination of what had come before, but it also set in motion the next phase of the MCU, which is due to come to fruition in the 2-part Infinity War.
This movie just does it perfectly, doesn't it? It just does everything. It builds on everything that has happened before. It perfectly gels every single character they've worked into their Marvel universe. You know, even Black Widow, even Agent Coulson, and it sets in motion everything that is yet to come. Agent Coulson going into the TV series, beginning Marvel's TV universe, and then moving into their next phase of movies, everything from Thor 2 to Iron Man 3 to Avengers Age of Ultron. It just works perfectly.
Speaking of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I want to bring that up in your Week of Geek, but we'll come back to that.
Okay.
In at number 9, we've already kind of alluded to this as well, in a way. Now, if you're a fan of the likes of The Hunger Games and Divergent and Maze Runner, and now the fifth wave, then our number 9 film, Battle Royale, is probably not the film for you. Although it is difficult to argue that this is not where the authors of the young adult novels got their inspiration. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I'd be very surprised if these authors ever watched Battle Royale.
Yeah, but all of their work is blatantly a rip-off of Battle Royale.
It is, and I think that's the problem. It's a second-hand rip-off. So they're probably not even aware that they're ripping off Battle Royale.
Anyway, Battle Royale was released in 2000 and was directed by Kinji Fukasaku, and that was actually quite good pronunciation for me. Battle Royale is the tale of 42 students who, under government legislation, are forced from their Japanese high school and taken to an island where they are forced to kill each other one by one until only one stands tall. This movie spawned a 2003 sequel, which is also pretty good, and apparently an American remake is in the works, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but they've been saying that for the last 15 years, haven't they?
Yeah, but just don't do it. There's no need.
There isn't any need, but I think there could be, if the remake was made well and had the right cast, I'd actually quite like to watch it. If you could just shock American audiences so much, I could imagine someone like Tom Hanks as the teacher.
Tom Hanks?
Yeah, Tom Hanks. I'd like to see the opening scene, right? Yeah, where, I don't know, Justin Bieber is a cocky little school kid in the back of the class.
Dave, stop talking now, man, because
listen.
You've just lost any credibility you ever had.
Alright, okay, not Justin Bieber, but, some little cocky American, latest kid to star in some show on Disney XD. Just fill it full of Disney XD stars. And then Tom Hanks, nicest teacher in the first minute of the film, turns around, throws a knife across the classroom, straight into the head of this kid. Boom, there's your movie. This movie, and it has to be brutal, That's
Boom.
what I want to see.
Boom, there's your t-shirt, Dave, right there. Boom.
Yeah, boom, there you go, Tom Hanks killed a kid, there you go. Obviously not really, just a movie, just saying.
In at number 8, moving swiftly on from that, we have Pulp Fiction. The 1994 follow-up to Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction is probably Tarantino at his very best, although personally my favourite is Reservoir Dogs. It cleverly interweaves 4 separate tales that cross paths at random points in the film, as Tarantino's unique flair for dialogue and direction are evident throughout. This film also continues the director's passion for resurrecting the careers of actors who were at the time on the outs, as here he saves both John Travolta from a lifetime of kids' films, and he brought the cool back to Bruce Willis, who was losing his way 4 years after making Die Hard 2. As a cracking soundtrack, and Samuel L. Jackson was in this film before he became a parody of himself, all of which contributes to make this one of the best films of the decade.
Absolutely, and what an end to a decade as well. I think it's difficult to sum up just how much of an impact this had on cinema at the time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In at number 7, we have another film from the Far East. This time it is Old Boy. Now, not to be mistaken for the terrible, as much as I love Josh Brolin, it was terrible, Hollywood remake from 2014, I think it was, which was directed by Spike Lee. What the hell was Spike Lee doing directing an American remake of Old Boy? I will never know.
Well, what the hell's Spike Lee been doing for the last 10 years anyway, let's be honest.
Watching the LA Lakers, probably. Anyway, we are talking about the Korean original from 2003, directed by Chan-wook Park and starring Min-sik Choi. So you can tell I love this film because I can pronounce their names perfectly. Old Boy is the story of Dae-soo Oh, who is kidnapped and held prisoner for 18 years before being released and beginning his quest to find the answers behind what happened to him. This film also has one of the most messed up endings of all time, which I am now going to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen this film, because he basically finds out that the person who imprisoned him is somebody that he knows from back in the day. We won't go into why he decided to imprison him, but basically he has manufactured it so that Dae-soo has ended up in a relationship with a woman who turns out to be his own daughter. So he's been having sex with his own daughter. So what does he do to this? he goes and cuts his own tongue out so that he can never say anything about it, and then goes and gets himself hypnotised before carrying on the relationship with his own kin.
It's just the most messed up ending you can possibly imagine, isn't it?
In at number 6 we have Seven. Now this is the first of 2 films by David Fincher that proved to the world that Brad Pitt was more than just a pretty face. Seven is at its core a standard serial killer hunt movie. There's a young cop, played by Pitt, and a wily veteran on the cusp of retirement. That's pesky old Morgan Freeman again. The two are forced to work together on a case where somebody is killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. What makes this film stand out from the crowd, however, is the brilliance of the performances coupled with the gruesomeness of the killings and the dark, dirty vibe the film exudes. Add to this another terrific twist ending, and you have another reason why movies in the 90s were just so damn great.
It was. I mean, it was just the most amazing dark twist as well. What's in the box? What's in the box? But, you forgot to mention there Kevin Spacey as well. I think this is probably the best 2 years Kevin Spacey's ever had in his career. But I forget which came first. Was it Seven or was it Usual Suspects?
I think it was Usual Suspects, wasn't it?
I think it probably was, you're right. But yeah, those were 2 amazing roles for Kevin Spacey as well. And I think this film just works on so many levels as well. It's just dark, gruesome. The opening credits have been copied a huge number of times in other films. And yeah, it's just... if you've never watched this, because a lot of people haven't, I think it's one of those serial killer films that kind of skips a lot of younger people by. But I think it still works so well as a movie.
Yeah, because it's not cool to watch, like the younger generation now. It's like cool to be into like Nirvana and stuff, even though you have no idea. Right, we enter the top 5 of the top 50 movies you must see because they're awesome, and it is my man Bruce Campbell making his 3rd and final appearance on this list. It is The Evil Dead 2, which is the remake / sequel to the original Evil Dead. This was released in 1987, 6 years after the original Evil Dead, and director Sam Raimi and acting god Bruce Campbell reunite to retell the story they delivered in the first film whilst fleshing out the plot and ramping up the horror comedy elements. Campbell plays Ashley J. Williams, who, while staying in a log cabin in the middle of a forest, reads from the Necronomicon, which is the Book of the Dead, and unleashes a spirit that is out to kill him. After lopping off his own infected hand, replacing it with a chainsaw, Ash manages to open a portal into which the evil is sent, although not before taking our hero with him, which leads to the equally brilliant Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the most awesome film, is it? And I think Bruce Campbell absolutely makes this film. Can you think of any actor that could have replaced Bruce Campbell?
No. And did you see, speaking of Bruce Campbell, that he melted Twitter on April Fool's Day?
He melted Twitter? How do you melt Twitter?
He posted an image of himself with all the relevant logos and stuff on it, insinuating that he was going to be in a sci-fi American version of Doctor Who.
Oh, that is so cool. See, I would watch that anyway. I know it's wrong, but I would watch Bruce Campbell as Doctor Who any day of the week.
For anyone who's listening to this and who doesn't know who Bruce Campbell is, you can just turn off right now.
Absolutely. He has to be one of the greatest living American actors, surely.
In at number 4, we have Fight Club. Now remember, Dave, when I said that Seven was one of 2 Fincher films that brought Brad Pitt to prominence?
Yes, I was thinking there. I was thinking, hang on, yeah, what else is there?
Well, Fight Club, of course, is the other. Released in 1999, Pitt plays Rebel with a Call's Tyler Durden, who walks into the boring, mundane life of the nameless narrator played by Edward Norton. Together they form an underground fight club where men can go and beat the crap out of each other. This eventually leads to domestic terrorism and the narrator's discovery, spoiler alert, that Tyler Durden was just a part of his fractured psyche. A recent sequel was produced in the form of a comic book series, which Dave talked about last week because the ending was rubbish.
The ending was rubbish, just disappointing, I have to say.
That's the Fight Club 2, not Fight Club.
Yeah, original Fight Club. I can't say enough about Fight Club, the movie. It got me to read the book as well, and the book is fantastic as well, I have to say. But this is just one of those movies I remember watching at the time, and the twist towards the end was absolutely shockingly, brilliantly done. It's just such a quotable film. The lead stars, Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, just give the most stellar performances. Even Helena Bonham Carter is pretty good as well.
In at number 3, we have The Blues Brothers. Now, younger audiences and younger people probably won't realise this, but at one time, Dan Aykroyd was a comedy giant.
What?
What?
Dan Aykroyd?
Dan Aykroyd at one point was a comedy giant.
Okay, yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but yeah, I mean, it sounds incredible, doesn't it?
It does, because nowadays, it's a bit like, I've had discussions with friends of mine who are 10 plus years younger than me, and they think Steve Martin is a terrible comedian, because they only relate to him being in films like Cheaper by the Dozen and Father of the Bride. But I say to them, no, Man with Two Brains, Roxanne, The Jerk. Steve Martin was a genius comedian.
He was, and I don't know what happened somewhere along the way. I don't know if he just got comfy and decided to do what he wants to do. But he is capable of so much better than he has made for a long time.
Which, of course, brings us back to Dan Aykroyd, who could also argue the same. And I would say that Dan Aykroyd was never better than when he got to work with good friend John Belushi. Now, starting as a sketch on Saturday Night Live, the Blues Brothers were former convicts Jake and Elwood Blues, who had a love for blues music. In the film, Jake is released from prison, and after visiting a gospel church, he sees the light and heads out with Elwood and their newly reformed band on a mission from God to raise the money needed to save the orphanage that they grew up in. And who was running the orphanage?
Was that Carrie Fisher?
No, it was the Penguin, the nun.
The Penguin, the nun?
Yeah. Have you never watched The Blues Brothers? Please tell me you have.
I have watched it, but you know what? I have to be honest, this movie just does not do it for me.
Oh man, this film is awesome. It's got some of the craziest car chases in history.
It has. It's just, I have to say, it's just one of those movies. I can see why it's a classic, but it's just not for me.
The bit where they're sat in the chairs in the Penguin's office and she's hitting them with a cane, and they're like, "Ow, fat Penguin!" It's just funny. It makes me chuckle just thinking about it. And you have to admit that chase scene through the shopping mall was awesome.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's it puts the Fast and Furious to shame, doesn't it? It's just comedic, but it's just not for me.
And one thing you would have to admit about this film is that the soundtrack is brilliant.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you could get that kind of soundtrack these days, it would be incredible.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't get that sort of soundtrack these days, would you? Could you imagine making a Blues Brothers nowadays with like Justin Bieber and Pixie Lott and Lady Gaga?
That would be that's the problem. It would have, Justin Bieber and Kanye and all that. Like, it would be terrible.
Speaking of Blues Brothers sequels, I have never watched Blues Brothers 2000.
Yeah, maybe you should just suck it up and watch it sometime.
No, it's never going to happen. So, in at number 2, as we close in on the elusive number 1, which is the answer to the competition this week, we have Star Wars. And I can imagine Pavo and Neil tearing their hair out as we speak that this is not number 1. They're, of course, the Pancast production boys. We will give them a plug later on. It's not every day that you can create something in your chosen art form that changes everything in that art form forever. But that's exactly what George Lucas and co did, and I've put and co because I think George Lucas gets far too much credit, in 1977 with the release of the original Star Wars. It cannot be overstated just what an impact the movie had, becoming the first huge blockbuster that cashed in on the merchandise greatly trained. Even non-fans know the story of, and I'm a non-fan, know the story of Han, Luke and Leia, and their adventures in a galaxy far, far away. And of course the movie spawned 2 beloved sequels, 3 not so accepted prequels, and the most recent next step in the franchise, The Force Awakens. So Dave, which Star Wars film is this you put in?
For me, my favourite my favourite is probably still The Empire Strikes Back, but you can't beat the original. It's just a superb movie in every single way. But how can you say Star Wars without just thinking the original 3 movies? And like you said, these movies changed everything. They changed what it is to be a big a big family movie, a big blockbuster movie, a big action movie, a big sci-fi movie. They're just to have the heroes, to have the villains. I mean, Darth Vader is certainly in the first two movies just as imposing a villain as you can possibly have. And yeah, like you said, this could easily be number one. Obviously, his memory has been slowed a bit by the rubbish prequel trilogy. But how can you not love Star Wars? And I know it's not your kind of thing, Stu. You don't quite get it, do you?
Well, each into their own, Dave. I mean, I love Blues Brothers, you're not a fan. You love Star Wars, I'm not a fan.
Well, yeah, absolutely, each to their own. But I would still have to say the original trilogy are three of the best movies ever made, I have to say.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb before I read out number one and predict that it's, again, not your sort of film. It's a film you don't necessarily get, per se. But the number one in our top, and I should point out that this top 50 isn't, number 50 is no less or more important than number one. It's just our 50 films that we picked, and then we've put them in order for the purposes of a countdown.
Okay.
So, in at number one on the top 50 films you must see because they're awesome, it's The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Lebowski is one of those films that caused barely a ripple upon its initial release, but has since gone on to become one of the most beloved cult movies of all time, and it is my favourite film ever made. It was written and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, who have made a career out of crafting classics such as No Country for Old Men, A Brother Where Art Thou, Fargo, and Barton Fink. Jeff Bridges stars as Jeffrey Lebowski, who is better known as The Dude. He is a stoner who keeps himself to himself and likes to go bowling with his friends Walter and Donnie. Through a series of events, the Dude is mistaken for a millionaire by the same name, whose wife is kidnapped and held to ransom. The Dude and Walter, played brilliantly by John Goodman, who we picked up last week when we were talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane, are coerced into being involved with paying the ransom on behalf of the rich Lebowski, which in turn leads to further unfortunate events, such as a bunch of nihilists urinating on the Dude's rug, which is unfortunate because it really ties the room together. This film has great performances, razor-sharp script, and a fantastic soundtrack. The Big Lebowski might not be for everyone, my wife personally hates it, but fans will defend it to the death. The film is so beloved that it has spawned Lebowski Fest, which is a travelling festival that celebrates all things Lebowski. The 2-day event takes place in various cities and there's a movie party and bowling night. Last July saw the 14th annual Lebowski Fest take place in Louisville. Are you a fan of Lebowski, Dave?
I'm not. Now, the Coen brothers for me are really... they're not divisive. I just think they're extraordinary filmmakers. But it seems to me they take it in turns. They make a movie that I absolutely adore, that I think is amazing. For instance, Fargo, or No Country for Old Men, or The Hudsucker Proxy. And then they'll make a movie that I'm not quite sure about. And for me, this was The Big Lebowski, which I can look at it and I can see, you know what, Dude, John Goodman, he's fantastic in that role. He's, he was kind of among the John Goodman Renaissance years, I think. And
you mean John Goodman is Walter?
Yeah.
The Dude is Jeff Bridges.
Well, John Goodman as Walter as well, I think is fantastic. But Jeff Bridges as Dude is great as well. But for me, it's just not for me. I can see why people love it. I can see why it's a great film. But if I want to watch a Coen Brothers movie, I'm going to watch No Country for Old Men or even Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. It's just not my kind of movie. And because the character of the Dude just kind of annoyed me a bit. Just kind of reminded me.
No, you can't say that, Dave.
He did. He just reminded me of people who are really like that. You just want to kind of just stop, get up and get a job or do something.
Dave, do you know what I was going to say about this show, the 50th show, and the best thing about this show was the fact that it reconnected us. Yeah, but you're about to get kicked off this show, man.
Oh dear. But you know what? That's it. I can see. I can see why people love this movie, but it's just not for me, you know. And apart from this, what do you think would be your favourite Coen Brothers movie?
I would probably say Barton Fink.
Yeah, for me, see, that's weird, because for me I'd say Fargo. And I think this is still really like a lot of their movies, a lot of their other films, so it's kind of weird that it didn't connect with me. Maybe I should watch it again.
So that was our top 50 movies you should see because they're awesome. Do you agree or disagree? Well, I would imagine there's probably lots of people going, what are you talking about? Lebowski, the greatest film ever? You're mental. If you have any comments, of course, feel free to post them in all the relevant places. So, we are now heading towards Dave's Week of Geek. This Week of Geek. This Geeky Week. This Week of Geek. This Week of Geek. So Dave, what have you got for us?
You know what? It's basically been a week full of comics this week. There's been very little time to actually watch movies. What have I had this week? I've had The Vision number 6, which is kind of the end of the first story arc. I've ranted and raved about this a lot, but it's just such an awesome comic and easy Marvel's best comic at the moment. It just makes me especially jealous and kind of annoyed that the writer of The Vision, Tom King, has been signed exclusively to DC Comics to do Batman, isn't it, Stu?
I believe it is, yes.
It is.
Isn't he taking over from Snyder?
Yeah, he's taking over from Snyder, and they're kind of co-writing a comic as well. So that surely has got to be an awesome version of Batman. I surely hope it is. But other than that, I've had number ones galore. I've had Gwenpool number 1. Now, have you heard of Gwenpool, Stu?
No, I've heard of Gwen... Spider-Gwen.
Yeah, there's Spider-Gwen. I'll get to Spider-Gwen in a moment as well. Now, this actually stems from last year. For some reason, Marvel decided to have a whole bunch of covers that were Gwen Stacy themed. So you had Spider-Gwen, you had Gwenverine, you had Dr. Gwen, Sorcerer Supreme, just a load of covers. They also made Gwenpool, which was a female version of Deadpool, but Gwen Stacy.
Is this a one-off, a one-shot?
To start off, it was a one-off, and that one-off kind of sold well, and now she's got her own series, Gwenpool. Now, the idea of it is basically she's a human from our universe who somehow dimension hopped into the Marvel Comics universe. So it's kind of fourth wall breaking, a bit like Deadpool is. But the idea is because she realises she's in a comic book universe, and she's read all about Iron Man and Captain America and the Incredible Hulk in our universe, she kind of realises she can do what she wants and be a hero and not get killed. So it's kind of funny a little bit. It's kind of a bit quirky for me. The art was kind of really candy-ish and a bit silly. It kind of worked for the title, but I'm just thinking, I really liked issue 1. I thought it was quite quirky, but can they carry it on without it just turning into Harley Quinn? I don't know. You know, she did seem very similar to Harley Quinn, if I'm being honest. Also in issues number 1, you got Black Panther number 1, obviously Marvel, to coincide with Captain America's Civil War, and Black Panther's rolling back. They've released a brand new series of Black Panther. They're really putting a lot into it because it's got a very critically acclaimed writer called Ta-Nehisi Coates, I believe.
Isn't this going to be a very political thing as well?
It sounds like it's going to be very political, which obviously is set in Black Panther's own country of Wakanda, and it seems very political of how he's trying to rule the country, but he's also trying not to oppress the people. He's a superhero at the same time. But you know what, issue 1 is pretty good, but I'm just not sure this is for me. But you know what, people, if you want to see what Black Panther's all about, and it's got pretty amazing art as well, pick up number 1, just see what it's like. But you know, sometimes Marvel Comics have their big events, don't they? They have the Civil Wars, they have their Secret Wars. So every year there's at least one big event, and in between you get little events, which kind of sometimes mix up amongst a small bunch of titles. I decided to give Spider-Women a go. Now this is a crossover of the 3 different Spider-Women titles. Now I think it's a bit messed up that these, what are initially just female versions of Spider-Man, which are Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen, and Silk, which is just another very recent female character, a girl which also happened to get bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker. I think it's a bit messed up that they've kind of become so popular that they get their own crossover. But there you go. I've given it a go. I bought the first 2 issues. Basically, Spider-Woman's got a baby, and they've ended up getting trapped in another universe, in a parallel dimension, where it looks like there might be another version of Silk and Spider-Woman. So, you know, where do we go from there? There's going to be big fights, but for me, it's not really working at the moment, and I can see why I don't read these titles regularly. But I'll see where it goes, I'll let you know, but it's just a bit frustrating. You give something new a go, sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. That's comics, isn't it?
But speaking of Marvel, I mentioned earlier on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You did.
Are you up to speed with that?
I am up to speed. I didn't watch the episode which aired in the UK last night, so I'm 1 episode behind, but I have been watching it, yes.
Right, okay, because I'm going to say something to you now, which isn't really a spoiler, so I'm not going to ruin the episode for you.
Okay.
And it will mean something to you when you watch the episode, because I watched it earlier today.
Okay.
Obviously, you can't offer an opinion, but for some reason, they have decided to make Grant Ward, who is obviously now dead and has come back as whatever the Beast is from the other dimension. Do you know what the Beast is called?
Yeah, he's called Hive, isn't he?
Well, whatever. They basically decided to make him the One from the Matrix.
The One from the Matrix?
Yes.
So he can kind of do whatever he wants?
Yeah, and he's dressed exactly like Neo.
That's kind of weird.
In a long black coat and everything.
Okay, so he's been in a parallel universe or a different planet for, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years, and he's just decided to catch up on fashion, has he?
Yeah, and he's obviously basing his fashion on the 1999 movie The Matrix.
Well, you know, the last couple of episodes, they have shown him just kind of watching TV permanently.
So yeah, I wanted to mention that. Obviously, you can give your opinion on that next week, but for me, this particular episode this week kind of felt like it was jumping the shark a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those series that comes close to and actually frequently does jump the shark a lot. So it needs to be very careful for me. For just all it's going to take is a bad run of episodes for me to just think, you know what, I don't care.
And also, this isn't Marvel, but do you remember a while back we talked about a Swedish film director who was planning to release a film that was 720 hours long?
Yes, I remember that.
Right, well, the guy in question is called Anders Wiberg, and he has just released the first trailer for his film, Dave.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Was it like 5 hours long?
No, the film's called Ambience, and this is a short trailer running at just 7 hours and 20 minutes long.
Oh, okay, so you'd easily be able to just, sit down and watch it on YouTube just for a few seconds.
Yeah. This will be followed by a 72-hour-long trailer in 2018.
2018?
Yeah. Before the full 30-day film will be released in 2020. Now, here is where, I mean, the whole thing's pretty pointless anyway, right?
Okay.
But it becomes even more pointless when you realise that the film will be shown once. Okay?
Okay.
It will have a one-off global screening, yeah, which will run for a month. But the film is 1 month long, okay?
Okay.
Which means, if you actually wanted, it's humanly impossible to watch this film because it's only running once for its entire duration. So you can't like dip in and out and like go back to where you started. If you wanted to see the whole thing, you would have to be there at the beginning and sit for 30 days and watch it till the end. And then the whole thing is being destroyed.
I just don't understand the point. I mean, I forget, what was this film about?
I don't actually know what it's about. I just know it's called Ambience. And I've watched bits of this 7-hour, 20-minute long trailer. And obviously I haven't sat there for 7 hours and 20 minutes and watched it. I've dipped in and out, and it's all in one take, this trailer. And it's the same beach that there was a famous movie which escapes me now. There was like a chess scene on a beach. We're going back like 60s, 70s now. And it's the same beach. And nothing really, well, obviously nothing happened. Two men appear and they sort of move up and down the beach a bit, and then if you skip towards the end, they're closer to the camera and they're kissing.
Okay.
And I don't know if I've missed something in skipping, but I certainly wasn't going to sit there for 7 hours.
Then, you know what, if you want to watch a trailer that's 7 hours long, then maybe you will watch a movie that's a month long.
Yeah, but you can't. It's physically impossible. You could not stay awake for 720 hours.
Yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? Are we going to just have people in sleeping bags there? I don't understand.
Well, the whole thing is just a giant publicity stunt anyway, isn't it? So, back to your week of Geek.
Okay, yeah. That was almost it, actually, apart from the fact that I finally finished watching Season 2 of Netflix. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but you know what? It's had some differing opinions and different reviews.
You mean Daredevil?
Yeah, Daredevil, sorry. But Daredevil Season 2, you know what? I like the fact that we've got a version of the Punisher, which is as brutal a version, more brutal than we've ever seen in any of the movies. I like that we've got an Elektra that is finally a little bit similar to what we've got in the comics. Not perfect, but it's definitely a hell of a lot better than we got in the god-awful Ben Affleck movie and the Elektra movie. So, yeah, I like it. I like Daredevil Season 2. I'm hoping it moves on to a really decent Season 3. I'm not really, I don't know about you, but I'm not really keen on the idea of a Luke Cage TV series.
Well, I'll wait and see, because he didn't really do a lot in Jessica Jones, did he?
He didn't, did he? But I'm just not convinced he's got the personality to carry off his own series.
One thing I will just mention before we close out your week of Geek, and I know you don't watch this, but I'm just making a prediction now, and then in 6 months' time, when it all is revealed, we can come back to this moment and say either I was spot on or I was a complete buffoon and didn't know what I was talking about. The Season 6 finale of Walking Dead.
I've heard about that. I kind of gave up watching Walking Dead around about Season 2 or 3, I think.
So anyway, Negan has come into it now, and he's basically battered somebody with a barbed wire baseball bat that Mick Foley would be proud of. Now, the point is, it's a huge cliffhanger. You don't know who it is that he's killed, because it's all done from the point of view of the person that he's battering, so you don't actually see who he's hitting. So I'm going on record as saying that I think, personally, that it's Michonne is killed. Now, that won't mean anything to you, Dave, but for anyone who's listening to this who is a fan of Walking Dead, Michonne is dead, in my opinion.
Well, you know, I've heard about the cliffhanger. I just think it'd be cool if it's a main character. If they bail out and go, oh no, he hasn't really killed anyone, it'd be lame.
You know why I think it's Michonne is because she's just falling in love with Rick, and who's obviously the main character. And anyone who falls in love with Rick and ends up in his bed, they end up dead.
But hasn't Rick's kid just had his eye shot out or something as well?
He has, yeah. He was shot in the eye with a bullet.
And of course, his wife died back in series 2. Is that?
She did die. Yeah, she was killed by walkers. Although they didn't go as horrific as the comic books, because in the comic books the baby is eaten by a zombie.
Ooh, that's horrible.
Yeah, but obviously that didn't happen in the TV series. So that was the end of Dave's Weekly Geek, which means we are coming to the close of the 50th episode of World of Stu. Just a quick reminder that you can win a copy of my book, Loner, the Collector's Edition, which brings together all 3 novellas which tell the story of Loner. If you want to know more, just check it out on amazon.co.uk. It collects together Loner, Deceived and Quietus. So for that, all you need to do is drop us a line on Facebook telling us what was the #1 movie in our top 50 movies you must see because they're awesome. Before we go, we should just of course remind you that we are part of the Pancast Productions Network, which you can find at pancast.co.uk. It's a group, a collective as you will, of podcasters who put their shows together, and Pavo and Neil, the mighty gods of podcasting that they are, have brought everyone together in a podcasting network, and that's where you can find us. You can also find us on our very own website, which is silentmoveman.wix.co.uk/World of Stu, although it might be wix.com, I can't remember. Anyway, you can check us out there where you get all the latest episodes of this show, as well as reviews from both myself and Dave. I posted a review for the 5th Wave on there just yesterday, in which I gave it a score of 5 out of 10. Which was a strong 7 out of 10 for the first part of the film and 3 out of 10 for the second half. You can also check out the official World of Stu artiste, who is a man by the name of Gary Smith. You can find him at the Folk Art of Cactus County. Just type that into Google, do yourself a favour and go and buy one of his paintings. Which leaves us just with the closing music of this week, Dave.
Okay.
Which ties in with the #1 film from our top 50 films. So if anyone's got to this point and they've skipped over #1, they're about to find out what the answer was. It is, of course, The Big Lebowski, and we are going to close with the Gypsy Kings, who I'm assuming you've never heard of.
No, I've never heard of them.
No. This is their sort of Spanish mariachi-type version of Hotel California.
Okay, interesting.
Which is pretty awesome. So it just leaves me to say thank you for being on this show, Dave, and thank you for being on, because episode 50 is actually your 40th show.
Yeah, 40th. Oh, see, I haven't been counting. It's just gone so quick, and been such a great laugh. It's amazing.
So thank you for being on 40 shows, and here's to another 50.
Yeah, well, I hope we get to another 50. We get to another 100. It will be absolutely.
Well, I'm not sure about another 100, Dave. We'll be old and grey by then.
Will we be old and grey? I don't know. If another 50, that'd be amazing. But, one show at a time. It's, I think, thank you to anyone who listens, because it's, it's tricky. It can be tricky finding the time to record every week. Let's be honest. We both got families. We both got, we both got a life outside of what we do. But yeah, to anyone who listens, just thank you.
And I should just point out, within the next 50 shows at some point, we will be aiming to do a live show where we are in the same location at the same time.
Yeah, we will be aiming to. I think we've discussed it briefly, haven't we? And it's just a matter of actually getting our asses in gear and actually just doing it.
So, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you once again, Dave.
Always fun, always welcome.
And we are leaving with the aforementioned Gypsy Kings and Hotel California. Till next week, keep it geek.
Por el camino del desierto, el viento me despeina, suave aroma de colita, una dona del aire. Ella de lo lejos, una luz entera, la idea de mercar. Te vi por en la noche, ella estaba a la entrada y la campana ya sonar. Y me dijo ya mismo que topo del cielo. Ella enciende una vela y nuestra de camino. Soy vos el corredor y yo te dije diciendo: he venido del California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. He venido del California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. Ella dorado que brillaba en una Mercedes, rodea chico guapo, ella mami amigo. Cuando va en el patio, perfuma de verano, hay que viene para recordar y otra para olvidar. Le pide el capitán que sirva el vino y me dijo: no hemos tenido este alcohol desde 69. Voz se quede llamando, desde yo a despertar, la noche para decir: he venido del California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place. He venido del California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place.
El espejo en el techo, champán en el hielo. Y ella dijo: somos todos prisioneros. A los cuatro principales, hace sus siestas, ataca a la bestia con sus puñales, pero no lo logra matar.
Mi último recuerdo, coreación de la puerta, debía encontrar el camino por donde había llegado. El acérdico portero, con eso no recibir, puede salir cuando quiere.